Has the market changed its mind about what the Fed may do next?
We have got to get inflation behind us. I wish there were a painless way to do that. There isn't.
I think this is a two-part policy mistake of historic proportion.
I think the odds of a recession in 2023 are very high.
I think you'd offer the American people an apology.
Okay, good morning and happy Friday, October 7th. I'm Chris Crystal with Financial Stockholm. These are our views on the market. And again, the depression is really hanging over the market, but there can be a very big advantage there. And so what we see in the Swedish press today is discussions about the housing market, which is first and foremost, which has been a strong driver of our economy and a lot of people's discretionary income. You see record listings for places like Åre. And for those who aren't familiar with Sweden, that's up north where the ski lodges are, and everybody goes skiing all winter or during the winter, and there are even business conferences there. You have a record listing of prices, and on that we've seen a housing market price drop from the tops in August and July, where we're seeing like a 13% decline. You're seeing very few people showing up for the listings. You're also seeing a longer period of time to get the sale done on both houses and apartments. And this does not bode well, especially when you take in consideration that Åre is selling. And if we look down to the West Coast and Gothenburg area, we'll probably see a very similar trend where you see the luxury houses that were bought at prices that well exceed the average median price for houses sold in Sweden are now being listed. And some of the houses are listing for 10 million Swedish crowns, and they're not showing the address because it's only for exclusive buyers. But if it's an exclusive category seller to an exclusive category buyer, but they're not getting enough listings these days, it's a very negative sign for the economy and in general. So we'll keep a strong eye on that because that will factor into the market heavily. And then as far as the real estate companies go, one of the companies that some say is overextended or maybe has liquidity issues, was behind some other projects going to market and that have been held back or delayed or postponed, would be a company like Castellum, where you're seeing other institutions buying into it to own the shares because Rutger is a very good businessman. So who wouldn't want to be involved with him? He may be going through a cash crisis or he may not, but if the share price is cheap enough, it's a great way to get involved with him. So you're seeing some postings in there. And then we do look at what's going on in the world, and that adds to the overall dismay or gloom and doom of the market because the Swedish NATO vote is down to Turkey, really. And then, but they're approving Finland. We have an article in local press from the former Ukrainian president saying, we want your soldiers. So get ready, Sweden, to send your young loved ones off to the front lines and participate in NATO. And with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, there may be some effect where it can work still, which will add to kind of the further investigation into who really did this. Why would Putin blow up his one advantage chip he has to bring people to the peace talks? Why would Putin blow up a revenue stream? And why would other parties that may have done it do it? So we'll see. And obviously, the goal for the destruction of pipelines was for a war. Okay, so I think that, and going forward, you have to look at how will you combat the prices of energy. So LNG becomes a significant issue, and we have the United States, which supplies about 5% of the LNG to Europe, stepping up and coming on and saying we can supply more. You have Norway, which has been a long-term active producer, sending. And so the question will be, would a country like Amsterdam, which just shut off their fields, turn around and say, okay, maybe we should turn them back on? And you see the construction projects in Germany, you see construction projects in northern Poland, you see construction projects in Italy, the places where you need the energy and where you have energy production or in Italy's case, a lack of energy production center for rest of Europe is it creates a different dynamic. Here in Sweden is Swede gas, which is First Investments, and they've recently changed their name, I think, to Frenier, but it's an investment firm run out of England, which is involved in the infrastructure. So looking at infrastructure deals for energy and reinvestment into the electrical grid will become much more in focus. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at a renewable, or if you're looking at a gas, or if you're looking at a coal, the investment into the grid needs to be done. And so we're looking that way. Norway, on the back of this, has had a very good August, obviously tied to the export prices of petroleum-based products or gas-based products. And they look to have a continued good economy as a result. And of course, the energy prices for them are not the same as Europe. And so we have a conference today in Prague discussing the EU-European energy situation, and there are suggestions for price caps. And this is being held in Prague, so we'll be watching what comes out of that. But overall, we continue with a negative news, and that's weighing on the Swedish economy. The Swedish kroner is again facing pressure from the dollar. We have the Swedish government now looks like it's getting down to the final phase, and there's a little bit of infighting on who's going to take the position, and if they don't get positions, what they're going to do in different votes and how this will play out. So really, these Sverigedemokraterna become the wild card in the story and can really become a kingmaker in a way that they get to play out their power. So that doesn't necessarily bode well for us, because when the new government is formed, there will be questions about the stability of the government and its actual effectiveness. So we look at the housing prices, the falling prices. We look at the average Swedish citizen's economy, and the winter prices for the electricity, which have been spiking, will really create a very bad economic situation here in Sweden. So one of the ways that the market's been played has been, of course, through shorting. And many people are shorting it, and shorting different tech stocks have been popular to short. So that's one area to keep a strong look. And then, of course, you can look at the currency versus the dollar or other currencies out there as a possible way to make some money in the market. And then, of course, infrastructure deals look to continue to get funding. So specifically for the energy sector. So that's it for this week. We'll try to come back next week, maybe with a little more in-depth dive and looking at the day rates in Norway, the day rates overall, the LNG prices, and how that market will shape out. So because we don't see anything coming from Germany where they would reactivate their nuclear plants, which would have a dramatic drop in the energy price within a very short period of time, should they choose to do that. So it's a question of how long the politicians want to kill their economies to go through this and potentially get overthrown, or potentially see riots and a lot of unrest. And that's where we are. But we wish you a good weekend, and hope you're well, and thank you very much. Bye.